You've seen the videos. Brand yourself like Sabrina Carpenter, wear your hair like Ariana Grande, dress like Hailey Bieber, and carry yourself like Marilyn Monroe. And that is great advice if you're selling attention, but not if you want real authority, influence, and an audience who trusts you long term. I'm a brand strategist with a background in content marketing, and I've worked with both brands and individuals to differentiate their narratives in a way that makes them stand out and reflect who they really are. So today we're talking about the difference between branding and positioning and why the latter may actually be more important for you. We're standing up today, feeling a little feisty. Okay. Hi and welcome back to the Visionary Podcast. My name is ylvasands and I am so happy to have you here. So today we're talking about something a little bit different, but at the same time not, because essentially a personal brand is just your identity packaged and expressed outwardly. So what is the difference between branding and positioning? Personal branding answers who you are, what you look like, and what your vibe is. Meanwhile, positioning answers why you, why now, for whom, and in what room. Oh, that rhymes, so you know it's true. It's a common metaphor that appearances are just like a book cover. The cover is what makes someone pick it up, but if there's no substance in the story, they will put it right back down again. And furthermore, if the book is in the wrong part of the store, or if there's no telling what the book is even about, it won't have the chance to be found by the people who actually want to read it. So that's where positioning comes in. It's about packaging and placing yourself in the right rooms so that you can be found by the right people. It's not about changing yourself, it's about shaping your narrative in the way that makes your story make sense. So if you feel like you've done the branding work, but you're still a little bit confused or something feels off, it's probably not your visuals, it's probably your positioning. And don't get me wrong, I love branding. I'm an aesthetics girl through and through. I love mood boards, I love identity, I love creating a visual world around who you are. But here's what I've learned the hard way. If your brand is only aesthetic, it's decoration. If it's positioned, it becomes direction. Branding is how you express yourself, but positioning is what remains even if that expression changes. So if your visuals disappear today, would your message still stand? That's the difference. So to make it even clearer, let me show you by using someone we all know and love. The queen of branding, Sabrina Carpenter. So if we look at her branding, who is she? Her image is playful, feminine, witty, a little ironic, and very aware of her self-image. What does she look like? She has that 60s bombshell aesthetic. Soft curls, mini dresses, pastel colors, high gloss glamour. Her vibe is sweet but sharp, dainty but bold, flirtatious and a little sensual. So that's her aesthetic layer. It's consistent and it highly complements both her features and her personality, both in fashion and in vibe. But that alone would not make her culturally relevant. So let's go deeper. If we look at Sabrina's positioning, why should we choose her? She actually has a very clear stance. She embodies colorful, hyper-feminine pop in an era that otherwise rewards hyper-irony or hyper-minimalism. She leans fully into theatrical femininity without apology. So why now? Because right now there's a cultural appetite for playful, self-aware femininity that isn't trying to be effortlessly cool. She offers a polished, maximalist alternative. And who is she for? She is for young girls who want to be glamorous, witty, romantic, and self-possessed, not low-maintenance cool girls. And in what rooms does she show up? In mainstream pop, fashion editorial spaces, award stages, not cool indie credibility circles. So that's positioning, my friends. She didn't just choose an aesthetic, she chose a cultural stance. Her branding is her curls and corsets, but her positioning is her commitment to unapologetic femininity in a culture that otherwise often mocks it. That's why it works. And if Sabrina started dressing minimalist and sleek luxury tomorrow, would her brand survive? Yes. But would her positioning? Only if the core belief remained intact. That's the real test. So that being said, this is why the advice of copying celebrity branding often fails. Because a lot of that advice stops at curls and corsets. It doesn't ask what cultural tension are you stepping into. That's why it feels ineffective, because without positioning, branding just becomes a costume. It's pretty to look at, but it doesn't actually say anything. So if someone tried to copy Sabrina's branding exactly, would they have the same result? The answer is not necessarily. The reason Sabrina's branding works for her is because it complements her personality, her physical features, her music. So if you're copying someone's aesthetic without understanding their positioning, you're copying the amplifier, not the signal. In the same way, if you build a brand on only aesthetics without actually clarifying what you believe and what you stand for, it makes you likable but interchangeable. It literally robs the world of your unique vibe and value, and you're diluting your genius to fit a trend, but genius should never be replaceable. Hiding your unique zest and opinion and stance is doing the world a disfavor, honestly. So next up, let's talk about anti-brands, aka what you do not stand for. Because what you are not is just as important as what you are, and it even makes it easier to know what you should not be wasting your energy on. Think about the biggest leaders in history. They've all had a common enemy or something controversial about them that some people don't like. That's because polarity is magnetizing. It not only draws attention, but it also pushes away the wrong people while drawing the right people to you. It creates such strong loyalty because they agree with what you represent. Take Sabrina as an example again. Her anti-brand is understated femininity. It's effortless, too cool to care minimalism, emotional detachment, dulling yourself down to fit in. She stands against shrinking femininity in order to be taken seriously, and she chooses maximalist expression, and she owns it. That's why copying her aesthetic without copying her stance doesn't work, because her stance is the engine. So to finish off, I'll give you a few practical questions and exercises to test your positioning and refine your stance. So number 1 is the room test. Ask yourself, in what room do I want my name to be mentioned? And what do I want someone to say after my name? So for example, she's the elegant comfort creator who empowers women to dress the way they want and express their full selves. Or he's the strong-minded founder who built a business up with only $10 to his name. I don't know, something like that. It forces specificity. Second is the association audit. So write down 5 words that you want associated with your name. And then you ask 3 people what they currently associate with you. Is there alignment? If not, you don't have a branding problem. You have a positioning gap. Third, we have the through line question. If you talk about health, leadership, mindset, business, fashion, what connects all of those things? What is the common denominator? If someone had to summarize your worldview in 1 sentence, what would it be? And if some of these things are not in line with your worldview, you might want to consider cutting them out. Fourth, we have the anti-brand. What are you not for? What do you refuse to be associated with? High-level positioning always includes exclusion and or polarity. Without that, you're just likable. And lastly, we have the removal test. If your aesthetics disappear tomorrow, would your thinking still be unmistakable? And if not, you've built an aesthetic, but not authority. So the takeaway from all of this, if you stripped away the mood boards, the colors, the fonts, what would still remain? What do you believe? What rooms are you trying to enter? And what do you refuse to be associated with? Remember that the goal is not to look like a brand, it's to become unmistakable. Because unmistakable people do not compete, they are recognized. So that brings me to the end of this episode. As always, I appreciate you being here. I hope you found this valuable, and if you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and on YouTube, maybe on both. You can also follow me on Instagram at ylvasands. And as always, I appreciate you so much. I hope to see you next time. Take care. Bye.